All right, hello and welcome to AA episode 29. Episode 29, we're almost at 30. And we have quite a whopper this time on this episode, but looking forward to getting to 30 and more so 50. But anyhow, thanks for tuning in here today. It is quite a joy for me to speak in this casual discussion today based upon an atheist comment that I've selected from off the internet, which will include my notes to guide me along for both our sake. Anyhow, I like to do a couple introductory type things. Show off the tie. There we go. And ideally we are going to try and cut these down to 5 minutes so that I can spread the butter more thin and get further. Other than that, I like to give a verse so that we start things off on the right footing. So this time I've selected Jeremiah 17:9. The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? All right. Now to the what is usually an atheist type comment that we usually try and deal with somehow, but folks are probably familiar by now. So this one is plentiful, but it's not a comment, it's rather a picture, a meme of sorts. Sort of like quite a compilation. It says, one of these is not in the Bible. Guess which one? And it shows a bunch of different things and lists them off. But we did our introduction much, much faster. That is very good. We're trying to get there. And we did a much better intro this time that we came up with, so that's nice. So it lists off, and it's, doing typical mocking type thing. It shows off Leviathan, dragon, cherub, satire, or satyr, and cockatrice, Satan, giant, behemoth, dinosaur, demon, talking snake, angel, seven-headed beast, witch, and last but not least, unicorn. So it says one of these is not in the Bible. Guess which one? So it's doing that in a mocking type way. We got a lot to try and address, so we're going to try and be fairly brief, but I want to touch upon kind of the conclusion at the start because I don't know how long folks will stick around for this video. So I would like to kick things off with the conclusion of sorts, which would be the biggest type miracle of atheism, Big Bang type thing, a universe seemingly from nada, and all of everything we got having been smaller than a dot. From that, essentially anything else, for instance, to counter this picture, using this picture, referencing that, anything else like within anything listed off there, or outside of that even, anything else would pale in comparison if atheism were true, and would thus also be possible to exist. And note one thing that this does. This is pointing to certain things in particular, but by doing so it excludes other things, a bunch of historical content within the Bible, eyewitness testimony, things like that, like Canaan, Assyria, some of that kind of stuff people didn't know about. The Bible was the only source for a time until archaeology kicked in. So that is interesting. Some would go as far to say, you know, not a letter, not a word, not a thing in the Bible could be historical or scientific or things like that. Hocus pocus. So let's dig in and go kind of try and do one by one. We're not going to cover them all, but we're going to try to cover what we can. So Leviathan, that is mentioned in Job 41:1. And I got the King James, so it's a little hard to understand. Canst thou draw out Leviathan with an hook, or his tongue with a cord which thou lettest down? So, sounds like something kind of aquatic, some sort of aquatic type beast. Could be some sort of water type dragony thing, who knows. Psalm 74:14, thou breakest the heads of Leviathan in pieces, and gavest him to be meat to the people inhabiting the wilderness. Interesting. Psalm 104:26, there go the ships, there is that Leviathan, whom thou hast made to play therein. It definitely seems to be indicating some sort of sea creature. Isaiah 27:1, in that day the Lord with his sore and great and strong sword shall punish Leviathan, the piercing serpent, even Leviathan, that crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea. Ooh, now that's getting into some possible different type of talk there, some symbolism, referring to it as a serpent and kind of alluding that it could be talking about Satan. So it's a little tricky, but water serpent type thing. There's been, talk of all sorts of different things. Outside of the water type dragon type of deal, serpent reptile type thing. There's been a few or several mentions of fire type seemingly breathing dragons. Interesting, considering that one little critter, whatever type of beetle that can shoot fire out its backside, that kind of shows you that the fire breathing type stuff could be possible. So, and that would be very interesting because modern media type stuff would be based on something, some historical type witness record or something like that, with fire-breathing dragons or fire-spitting dragons, or flying type ones, not necessarily water type ones. This for the most part was talking about like an aquatic type one, and there's different who knows what kind of animal it's necessarily talking about, but it talked about something really, really tough. So I don't know, I'm losing my train of thought, but anyhow, I guess it's time to move on. So let's move on to dragon. We're certainly not going to be within the time frame this time. We're already beyond 9 minutes. But anyhow, Revelation 12:4, and his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven and did cast them to the earth, and the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. Very interesting. Now there, particular, it's using Revelation is very, very tricky to understand. Very tricky. uses a lot of symbolic language that is difficult to figure out. But there, it's talking about things prior, around the gospel type stuff. It's and prior is talking about the fall, and his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven. I don't need to get into all of it, but essentially it's talking about the dragon, the serpent, as Satan. It's referencing Satan. So, in the dragon type label, what was it? It was replaced with. It was used for, probably hundreds of years, but probably still is. But at some point it got changed, 1842. So Richard Owen, with the word dinosaur, meaning terrible lizard or something like that. So these big lizard reptiles type thing. China has Year of the Dragon. All the others, you name it, whatever they all are, mouse, this and that, I can't remember them, but all those creatures are essentially real creatures. Why would the dragon be on there? Why would the dragon be on there? And the dragon is very iconic over there in China. So, very interesting. And all that. So anyhow, let's move on again. Cherub. Cherubim. Cherub, short for cherubim. A type, a kind of angel. There's two other kinds, plus I think the archangels. So, who knows if there's more than, Anyhow, Genesis 3:24. So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubims and a flaming sword, which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. This is after the fall. Now, I used to think cherubims and a flaming sword. Not cherubims with a flaming sword, essentially, wielding type of a deal. That's probably what it's trying to get across. So, very interesting. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. I better speed it up here. We're getting some rain. Now, satire, I don't know what that is, so maybe we'll have to do an extra video on that or something. Equally, I do not know what the cockatrice is, or cockatrice. I don't know what those are. One looks like a minotaur type thing with a bow, and the other one looks like a half dragon, half rooster type chicken thing. All right, now on to Satan. Satan, otherwise known as Lucifer, the devil, the serpent, the dragon. It's talked about a lot in there. Isaiah 14:12. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? Once again, King James Version kind of mucking the wording there, making it difficult for us, because languages change over time. 2 Corinthians 11:14, and no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. Very interesting. Luke 4:3, and the devil said unto him, if thou be the Son of God, command this stone that it be made bread. Now that one was when Satan was tempting Jesus in out in the wilderness. Jesus every time, firing back with scripture. But anyhow, those are so Satan is talked about in with different words. Serpent, the dragon. I'm sure we'll get to talking snake down below. But anyhow, giant. There's a lot of pictures of giants and things like that. Who knows? A lot of them are probably fakes. But anyhow, Genesis 6:4 brings up the Nephilim. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. Giants, sons of God. So, made offspring. There's like 4 different views on the Nephilim. This type of thing. Pre-flood, something that was going on, and may have been one of the core pillars of why the flood was brought about. Nephilim being fallen angels breeding with mankind and bringing forth. That's one of the views. Very interesting stuff. And what's more so interesting is that kind of goes along the lines of transhumanism. There may be several transhumanism type elements going on with that. And in modern media, this kind of thing is being promoted. Subtle, but you can definitely see it in certain media industries. You can see them showing this kind of a thing off, transhuman type things. So it just kind of goes along the lines of man essentially trying to live forever here on Earth. The other route with transhumanism is more modern take, but it's that man merging with machine to become, kind of, in a sense, eternal. But that's going to be heck on Earth, to be honest. Really horrible. So people are only going to talk about the benefits, not the detriments. Alright, so just take a peek at China, what they're up to with different things. Robot type stuff can be hacked, and turned off, and different things. Cell phones tracked, different, many different things. They're only going to show off the benefits. Hey, you can live forever. Just be part of the system. Ooh, be careful. Oh, Revelation predicts a lot. Mark of the Beast type thing, which will probably be tied into that sort of a thing at some point. Who knows when? They're predicting and hyping by 2050 and stuff like that. That sort of stuff will be here. So who knows? Anyhow, Behemoth. Now we're not talking about some huge person. This is a larger land type creature, dinosaur. Job 40, 15 through 18. Behold now Behemoth, which I made with thee. He eateth grass as an ox, so herbivore. Lo now, his strength is in his loins, and his force is in the navel of his belly. He moveth his tail like a cedar. Like a cedar? People have tried to say, hippo or elephant. They got pathetic tails. They don't move them like a cedar. He moveth his tail like a cedar. The sinews of his stones are wrapped together. His bones are as strong pieces of brass. His bones are like bars of iron. Very interesting. And that gets into that may be the oldest bit of scripture referring to a time post-flood. So, and witnessing a dinosaur, which would have been on Noah's Ark, in all likelihood, different kinds of them. Then they're post-flood. And such, but we'll get into a little bit more of that with the next one. Dinosaur. So yeah, I said it was, 1842 terminology by Sir Richard Owen. A dragon meaning terrible lizard or something like that. Brought through the flood and thus were alive post-flood, but as mankind would spread out, the first thing you would want to kill off is anything that could be a threat. So dinosaurs would have gone extinct. There's stories about the Thunderbird type thing of kind of America before it got colonialized. Pterodactyls, those type of things. So those are fascinating information and stories and stuff like that. But tons of other types of dragons. Dinosaurs. Stomach quiet. Some people think that dinosaurs still exist out there somewhere, because we don't have an eye everywhere. Africa, I think, the Congo, they talk about Mokele Mbembe, which is very interesting stuff. They talk about hearing them, but and some have tried to record this and that, but the footage turns into nothing. So, or every time the footage gets ruined or wrecked or something. Who knows? Part of it, they could be telling the truth. Another part of it, if they wanted to over there, to incentivize people to come over and invest a bit over there, would be to play it up. So, although I'd go with their some telling the truth that there is something over there. So it's interesting stuff. Mokele Mbembe, and certainly there's various carvings that man has done, or different designs, artwork of dinosaur type creatures, and that goes against evolution. That man didn't live at the time of dinosaurs. It mucks up the whole system. It tears the whole thing down. Another interesting topic is the Ica stones of Peru. Very interesting. These stones have carvings of dinosaurs on them, and they were dated to be accurate, despite, of course, people finding an incentive to fake them, and people made a bunch of fake ones apparently to try and get money. But there were the real deals that could be differentiated. So those were from hundreds of years ago, maybe 1,500 or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, that was probably South America somewhere. Yeah, so that's another interesting topic. The Ica stones, man carved dinosaurs onto stones. Dinosaurs. And for them to have carved them onto stones, they had to have witnessed them. They had to have witnessed them to carve them. You can't just, whatever the case, dig up a skeleton of one or a fossil of one and draw the dinosaur. Nonetheless, another thing they had figured out, which was the unique skin patterns and stuff like that. There was a consistency found with that, so they totally saw them. Totally saw them. Something that was, learned in recent times. So, anyhow, that had consistency. Let's move on, because we want to plow through these. Demon, Jude 6, I don't know what verse, but, and the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains under darkness unto the judgment of the great day. Now, there it's talking about demons. It calls them angels. 1/3 of the angels followed Lucifer and rebelled. So, stomach, quiet. Anyhow, so demons are fallen angels. So, they're part of the bad guys. Angels are the good guys. 2/3 remained, did not go along with it, the rebellion. So, anyhow, talking snake. Let's move on to that. But I've already covered demon type stuff elsewhere. That kind of stuff is tied into the alien type stuff. That's what may be in large part going on. Demons being deceptive to folks and all sorts of weird things to people, bothering them and distracting them and making them think secular type stuff, and goes back to U.S. spying and Roswell and cover story and playing up aliens, and even before that, I think there was the concept of aliens and stuff like that. But anyhow, I forget. So talking snake, a talking snake. In a mild bit of defense, at the very least, I find it interesting that birds or parrots can mimic what they hear and repeat it back, relay it back. I think it would just be a cool bit of speculation, not anything doctrinal, but I think it would be a cool bit of speculation if pre-fall something like that all the different animal kinds could talk, and that mankind and different animal kinds had a bit of a better relationship type thing. But that's probably just kind of fun speculation. Very much probably not the case, because God made Eve special for Adam. If the animals could talk, maybe, who knows, could have been a more likelihood, but no, God knew what was going on, and he knew that Adam wouldn't find any suitable, so he knew he was going to make Eve. So anyhow, just fun speculation, just a fun idea rather, but I don't think it's the case. All right, so Genesis 3:1-7, I think. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. The serpent, there we go. There's that snake or whatever. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath God said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? God said one tree. Satan swapped it and said all the trees. He's prodding. And the woman, Eve, who was blonde, apparently, said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. So she was right, and then she was consistent, and then she was inconsistent. Didn't say anything about touching it. So she was probably applying that, but she changed the word of God. But she might have been trying to apply that as a rule to herself. Don't even touch the sucker. Who knows? And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die. Ooh, directly contradicting God's word. So, for God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. Knowledge. Knowledge. And when this woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. He didn't stop her. She ate first, so he might have been testing her. He gave it to the blonde first. And the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons. They tried to cover their sin. But it's, with the serpent speaking here, it's talking about Satan, not a talking snake necessarily. I mean, that is one of the options. That is certainly one of the options. Satan could have possessed a snake. We hear about later in the Gospels that a bunch of demons not only possessing people, but like went into pigs and then ran off a cliff or something like that. So they can possess animals. So if Satan possessed a snake, could he talk? And is that why he's called the serpent? Could be. Who knows? And then it's very interesting. There's a visual. There's some sort of artifact type thing which depicts this kind of a moment, kind of affirming Genesis in a sense. It shows two figures, a tree, the fruit, and a snake behind the woman. So very interesting. Very interesting. An ancient, probably post-flood type artifact. I think it's called the Temptation Seal. So, it's very interesting. Very interesting stuff. Alright. Now, angel. We kind of talked about it before. We got to go move faster. We talked about cherubim. Now let's do seraphim. Another kind of angel. A second kind of angel. We also talked about Nephilim. So, a third kind of angel. Isaiah 62, I don't know what verse. Above it stood the seraphims. Each one had 6 wings. With twain he covered his face, and with twain he covered his feet, and with twain he did fly. And then, of course, there's archangels, Michael, Gabriel, this and that, I think. So, interesting stuff. What about 7-headed beast? A 7-headed beast. What? Impossible. People scoff, but they don't look into it. They don't look into it first. You know, I think all sides are guilty of that. We don't look into opposing views or listen to the materials or speakers, those kind of things. I think all sides are kind of guilty of that. So the more interaction we have, the better it'll be. Better we can communicate, discuss, and debate, which is good. Alright, so 7-headed beast. How on earth is that possible? Now, we have seen with mutations, you can get multiple limbs, multiple heads, maybe 2 or 3. I don't think you could get 7 necessarily. But let's deal with this one. Whoever jotted that one down needed to keep going a bit. Keep going. Revelation 17:9 deals with the 7-headed beast. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. Once again, King James language there. On which the woman sits. And it's talking about the woman symbolically there as well. So, the 7-headed beast is symbolic language. It's not an actual 7-headed beast, but it's talking about perhaps Rome itself. Rome is supposedly known as the city of 7 hills or mountains or whatever the case. And I think there was wasn't there 7, may have been 7 churches, 7 letters to 7 churches or something like that, or more, whatever the case. I don't remember, but anyhow, it starts talking about this not great system, and it may have accurately predicted Catholicism, Roman Catholicism. Anyhow, let's move on. Let's wrap this up. We got witch and unicorn left. So witch. Now. Those kind of things. You still find that kind of stuff in media. So it had to have some kind of source. I don't know, there still are those type of folks into different things. Druidism, Wiccans, different types of things. Maybe Satanism, maybe white magic, black magic, this and that, who knows. Maybe even, what's those things called? What are those things called? Not pendants, but shoot, I forgot what they're called. Anyhow, there are still witches. There are still magicians. People type folk dabbling into some not good stuff. And in doing those kind of things, they're inviting demons and messing around with trash they should not. But we know the typical this or that, doing different magical type things. But anyhow, let's get into this. Exodus 7:11. 7:11. Ooh, nice. When Pharaoh also called the wise men and the sorcerers, now the magicians of Egypt, they also did in like manner with their enchantments. Interesting. Wise men, sorcerers, magicians, enchantments. Interesting. So, it goes back to at least ancient Egypt, this kind of a thing. Very interesting. We probably more so think about it in the sense of medieval type times, with this kind of stuff, witches and stuff like that. So our modern is probably based on the medieval times, which is based upon ancient times of magic type stuff, magicians, witches, mages, magicians, enchantments, sorcerers, this and that. 2 Chronicles 33. Manasseh was 12 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 55 years in Jerusalem. But did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, like unto the abominations of the heathen, whom the Lord had cast out before the children of Israel. For he built again the high places, which Hezekiah his father had broken down, and he reared up altars for Baalim. I think that's another word for Baal. Maybe it's a different kind of Baalim, or Baal, as Baalim. And made groves and worshipped all the host of heaven and served them. Ooh, not good. Also he built altars in the house of the Lord, whereof the Lord had said in Jerusalem shall my name be forever. And he built altars for all the host of heaven in the 2 courts of the house of the Lord. And he caused his children to pass through the fire in the valley of the son of Hinnom. And he observed times and used enchantments and used witchcraft, which is all over in modern media. All over. And dealt with a familiar spirit and with wizards. He wrought much evil in the sight of the Lord to provoke him to anger. Alright. So, the Bible does describe a lot of those different kind of things. So, I guess all our modern type stuff is based on way back. Who knows how far back? Who knows how far? Possibly soon after, well, not soon, but possibly like the soonest might have been Babel, Tower of Babel, or maybe even pre-flood. Maybe even pre-flood that kind of stuff was going on. Who knows? But it sure found its way in the ancient civilizations all over the place. Anyhow, last but not least, unicorn. Then we're going to end things off here because we're 45 minutes. Goodness. Unicorn. All right. Well, in a little defense of this one, people made fun of the thought of the dodo bird. They thought it was, completely bogus, but then found out it was real, as far as I recall. Anyhow, but who knows? But there's been different input into this one. I think one of the views somebody did based upon research and looking into the different words that were used. One idea was something like it was a description of a certain kind of rhinoceros, which had a specific amount or number of horns on its head. I forget if it was bicor or tricor, or bihorn or trihorn, and it would have been kind of maybe multiple on just from the same one or same spot. Kind of however many points on it. So it may have been a bicorn or whatever kind of rhino. So it may have had 1, 2, or 3 points. Who knows? And it may have been described by saying unicorn, one corn, one horn. But there may have been multiple on that one horn. So, who knows? I can't really remember it. Someone did a great amount of work into it. I would like to find the video again. But who knows? But anyhow, once again, I'll wrap up with my early conclusion. Biggest miracle of atheism, Big Bang, everything coming from nothing. And then everything was compacted, smaller than a dot. People can make fun of Leviathan, dragon, cherub, satyr, and cockatrice if they're in there. I don't know what those are. Satan, giant, behemoth, dinosaur, demon, talking snake, angel, seven-headed beast, witch, unicorn, you name it, anything. Given the atheism type stuff, if true, anything else, Big Bang type of stuff, anything else would pale in comparison, and would thus also be possible to exist, or at least, the very least, possible to exist at some point, if everything can pop into existence from nothing. and be smaller than a dot. I'd like one of those trash compactors, but anyhow, that's that. I don't know how else to end things off, but those who call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. How about that? How about that? That's a good end. So, thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned for more. I intended to get done with this one way faster, and, well, hold up. Why is it named? Oh, this is 30. I had it named 29. Whoops. So this is episode 30. We made it. We made it. Okay. So, but we're still on our way to 50. So, I want to get to 50. That would be nice. So, alright. So, thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned for more. I will see you up ahead for more AA. Episode 31 is next, I guess. Not 30. So, 31 next time. So, take care.